Zacama, Primal Calamity, Historic Brawl deck tech. Alright everyone, so I've got a brand new deck tech for you. We're going to use Zacama Primal Calamity. She's a big old dinosaur that will really stomp on your opponents. If you recall, I've already made a full Commander Zacama deck tech. Follow the link over there to go see that. Now what we're going to do here though, it is a Brawl version of the Zacama deck. The thing about Brawl, of course, that it is a 60 card format instead of 100 cards for a Commander style of gameplay. Now, Zacama is not standard legal at the moment, so we have to go over to Historic Brawl. Or is it called Friendly Brawl? They haven't gotten their name straight on that, but anyway, it's Commander on Arena, the best we can do at the moment. And we're going to put this Zacama deck together with a lot of ramp, mana rocks, mana dorks, fun dinosaurs. It's totally on theme. That's how I like to build my decks, completely on theme. That's how I like to express myself in deck building. Very on theme, very tribal. A lot of stipulations, because obviously you can make an amazing deck with a million cards to choose from. But I like to kind of put stipulations and challenge myself and make cool decks, and I know that you do too. So let's go check this deck out. Alright, so here's the deck. We have various concepts before I show it off. We have to have some mana acceleration, which includes mana rocks, mana dorks. We have to have some answers for the opponents. There's some board sweepers in there. There's some big scary dinosaurs, some low-cost creatures. Just a lot of cool stuff going on for the ultimate payoff, which is Zacama Primal Calamity, a 9 casting cost 9/9 vigilant reaching trampling creature. She's a legendary elder dinosaur. Amazing. Now, when she gets summoned, then you untap all your lands to use them again, and then she's got 3 activated abilities. 3, focus on red, deals 3 damage to target creature, or 3, focus on green, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or 3, focus on white, you gain 3 life. So versatile. You just spent 9 mana to summon Zacama, you get that 9 mana back, and then you can do all those amazing things. Wipe out their little creatures or a big creature, destroy their troublesome enchantments or artifacts, or you gain life. She does it all. Well, to get to 9 mana quicker than your opponent, you're going to need a lot of ramp. So we've got some creatures that help you ramp. Normally those would be mana dorks. That is a creature that taps for mana. This is a little bit different. We've got Kinjali's Collar. For a single white mana, you get a 0/3 human cleric that reduces the cost of dinosaur spells by 1. So not really a mana dork. It doesn't give you mana, but it saves you mana. I'm sure there's an official term for that, but we've got, I don't know, mana saver dork, whatever we want to call it. So we've got one of those. At 2 mana, 1 red, 1 more, you have the Otepec Huntmaster. This is a human shaman, 1/2, power toughness. Dinosaur spells cost 1 less to cast. Okay, so this is another mana reducer dork, which is also compounded by having a tap ability. Target dinosaur gains haste. Obviously this is worthless in a lot of decks, except this one, it's amazing. Reduces the cost of your dinosaurs and gives your dinosaur haste. Imagine summoning Zacama and giving it haste right away, and it attacks as a 9/9 vigilant trample with reach. Thank you, Otepec Huntmaster, you are amazing. Another 2 mana creature, this is 1 and a green, you get a 1/1 human druid. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Okay, now this one's a true mana dork right here. What's also cool is then the drover gets +2/+2 if you've got a dinosaur. This deck is crawling with dinosaurs, so it's in the deck of course. You may have noticed I don't have a Llanowar Elf in here. This is one addition you could add to the deck. Totally fine, you could do it. I think I've ramped up the deck pretty well, but if you want to add classic Llanowar Elf, go ahead and do so. It's just that, again, I'm just really sticking with a lot of stipulations of terms of dinosaurs, Ixalan block, that sort of thing. So that's how I roll. Next up, we'll look at some mana rocks. Okay, what we've got here is Arcane Signet. Is this an auto-include nowadays in the world of Brawl? Commander 2 maybe? So 2 mana rock to then tap to give you 1 mana of any color in your commander's identity. So obviously worthless in any other type of format except for Commander or Brawl. This is a turn 2 play if you don't have the other mana creatures. Obviously maybe turn 1 Kinjali's Collar, turn 2 Arcane Signet, and you're just ramping crazily, the best kind. Next mana rock is also 2 mana and gives you a color of any color. However, big stipulation, when it comes to the battlefield, pick a creature type. choosing obviously Dinosaur. Then you get a mana of any color to cast Dinosaurs. So this can be worthless in 99% of decks that are not playing Tribal. This is obviously a Tribal heavy deck, so if you're playing your own Tribal heavy deck, you want this card for it. Besides that, it doesn't tap for anything, but when you've got that particular creature you want to cast, it's invaluable. The next mana rock, okay, in Standard we don't have a lot of 2-cost mana rocks. We've got Chromatic Lantern at 3, gives you a mana of any color, and then mana fixes you perfectly for the rest of the game. All your lands become any color that you need, so there'll be no more trying to get the right kind of mana at the wrong time. The Chromatic Lantern illuminates the path perfectly. Mana Geode, 3 mana for a mana of any color, mana rock, but then it gives you a Scry of 1, so you get to go see what's coming up next in your draws, smoothing it out a little bit if you don't need something, bottom it, or get on top if you do. Manalith gives you mana of any color, 3 mana to get it on the field, okay? We know how that one works. Spinning Wheel, the strictly better Manalith. It's also 3 mana. It also gives you mana of any color, but then 5 and a tap target creature. So tap down one of their creatures for 5 mana that is about to attack you, or tap down their creature when you're about to attack, or make mana of any color. So that's the final mana rock that I've got here to get to my big creatures faster. Okay, here's another mana ramp sort of thing. This is interesting how Wizards is trying to give white more tools to draw cards. Smothering Tithe is close enough in terms of when your opponent draws a card, then you get a treasure, usually. They're not going to spend the 2 to deny you your treasure, especially in the beginning. You're going to ramp with so much land so quickly when the opponent isn't paying for the tithe, and especially if they're one of these blue mages that are just drawing a bunch of cards, they're going to tap out drawing cards and you're going to get a lot of advantage in mana. So this is a great include for this deck. We've got some card draw type of spells. First of all, Arcane Encyclopedia, 3 mana, and then later you tap and pay 3 to draw a card. Okay, you've got a mana sink. Sometimes you don't have anything to do. You've drawn another land. Well, you've got 3 mana. You've got the Encyclopedia. Tap it, draw another card. Okay. Next up, this card is amazing in Commander and Brawl. Guardian Project, 4 mana, enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control, or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. Okay, that's a lot of words to say. Draw free cards in Commander or Brawl, because this is letting you draw a card off of a uniquely named card, off of a uniquely named creature. That's what Brawl is all about. You only have 1 of each card. Think about it. It's a free draw. As soon as you play this enchantment, every creature that you play will draw you a card. Auto include in any green tinged Brawl deck, definitely. Okay, moving over to removal. Your opponent's going to have annoying stuff, so we've got to deal with it. Revoke Existence. 2 mana, sorcery, to exile target artifact or enchantment. Now this sounds a lot like Disenchant. So here's where you need to decide. Do you want an exile effect or a destroy effect? Disenchant is also 2 mana. It's an instant, however, compared to a sorcery. But the thing that you destroyed went to the graveyard. And players have a way to bring stuff back from the graveyard. Players have less of a way to bring stuff back from exile. So here's something where you can decide, do I want to destroy it, disenchant? Do I want to exile it, revoke existence? Speaking of exile, how about Seal Away? Another 2 mana enchantment. This is a 1 and a white, flash. When it enters the battlefield, exile target tapped creature an opponent controls until this leaves. Okay, so your opponent is attacking you with something amazing. You're going to tap this. As soon as they attack you, flash it in, exile them when they're all tapped out, and their creature is gone until this gets destroyed. And I just noticed, is this creature over here next to a Manalith? What about a Banishing Light? For 3 mana, enchantment, when it enters the battlefield, exile any target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this leaves. So this is again an exile effect. It targets anything except a land, so it'll help you take care of your opponent's things. It's a 3 mana. It's just some great removal. Prison Realm is along those lines as well, although it's specifically focuses on creatures and Planeswalkers. Now, because we only have access to a limited number of cards, even in Historic Brawl, compared to Commander, we have to get as many cards as possible that are similar and also good. So, Prison Realm is similar to Banishing Light. It only hits, however, creatures and Planeswalkers, so it won't hit that pesky enchantment that's vexing you. But then, off of that, you get a Scry. So you get to exile the thing and then scry to see what else is coming up, again to smoothen out your draws. Conclave Tribunal, 4 mana to exile anything except a land. Now this has Convoke, so other creatures that you tap can be used to pay for the mana cost, either the generic mana or the colored mana. So this can be a 1 mana exile sort of effect. So Conclave Tribunal, get in the deck. There's also Ixalan's Binding, which is very similar, but it's a hard 4 mana. It cannot be convoked. And Ixalan's Binding is better in a non-singleton format, but that's another bit of removal that you could put there if you want. I think Conclave Tribunal is better, however, in Brawl. And the last bit of pinpoint removal, Crush Contraband, 4 mana to do 1 or both, exile an artifact and or enchantment. So it's double the mana of Revoke Existence, but it lets you do both at instant speed. So don't sit on this. Next up, a couple of sweepers. Board wipes. If your opponent is building too much of a powerful board state, okay, good old white will let you wipe out a bunch of things. Settle the Wreckage. 4 mana, instantly exile all attacking creatures. The downside though is that you give them free lands, but a board wipe could be exactly what you need in white. Now there's also the possibility of planar cleansing, although that one's a little too hardcore, but that's another replacement that we could have here for this sort of board wipe. Another board wipe that I do have though is Shatter the Sky. 4 mana, sorcery, destroy all creatures. Now it does destroy your own creatures, but wait a minute, if you do have big creatures, power 4 or greater, it draws you a card. So if for whatever reason you need to wipe the board and you've got big creatures on the board, at least you get a card back off of that. I've got 2 Planeswalkers in the deck. First up is Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants. +1, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Okay, so your little creatures can become big creatures with a +1. Great. -2, return a creature card with CMC of 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So bring back some of those mana dorks, bring back some of these small dinosaurs from the graveyard back directly to the battlefield. The ultimate, -7. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 white cat creature token with lifelink. So Ajani is going to be an honorary dinosaur, and he's going to bring honorary dinosaurs to you. You get to make a bunch of cats at the end of your turns if you've gotten him up to the +7 to make that pop off. But what I really want is that +1 counter on 2 creatures. 4 mana to repeatedly put 2 counters on your creatures. I'll gladly have some cats on the squad if I get that. The other Planeswalker is way more on brand. Huatli, Radiant Champion, 4 mana in Selesnya colors. +1, put a loyalty counter on Huatli for each creature you control. So once you've built a little bit of a board state, you're going to be putting 1 + 2, 3, 4, 5 more counters on Huatli really, really fast to get to that ultimate. -1, target creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. So until end of turn, your little creature becomes huge based on the number of creatures you have on the battlefield for just a -1. And you're trying to get to that ultimate -8, which is very easy. -8, you get an emblem with, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So you're going to get to that 8 extremely fast, trust me. Then you're going to get an emblem which can stack. You can have multiple emblems at once, drawing you so many cards with that -8. Trust me, you're just going to get that emblem so many times. Alright, let's talk about dinosaurs. This deck is lousy with dinosaurs. Actually, one more thing before the dinosaurs. How about a tutor for any of your dinosaurs? Forerunner of the Empire is an auto-include in any dinosaur deck. It's a 1/3 human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, go search for any dinosaur, put it on top of your library after you reveal it. So next turn you get to draw it. You can go get so many amazing dinosaurs with this Forerunner. But then, when a dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it deal 1 damage to all creatures. Okay, so there's, spoiler alert, there are enrage creatures in this deck. When they get damaged, they get better. This will automatically damage all creatures for at least 1, and then you get to enrage and do cool stuff. So Forerunner of the Empire is in my empire. Let's talk about the littlest dinosaur that can get out of hand. 2-color Siegehorn Ceratops. It's a 2/2. And then it gets enraged If it gets dealt damage, put 2 1/1 counters. So if you do the 1 damage from that Forerunner, this then becomes a 4/4. After it's a 4/4, it's just going to get so out of control, just getting 2 + 2 + 2, bigger and bigger and bigger. Remember that to a Siege Horn, there is no such thing as a dead end. Did I hear you say you need more mana ramp? Okay, here's a mana dork dinosaur sort of thing. The Ranging Raptors. It's 3 mana, it's a 2/3. When it gets damaged, you may search your library for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So it's a 2/3. It's going to take a good amount of damage in the early game, and then it'll let you ramp up your mana pretty fast if it gets damaged a little bit. For example, once again with that Forerunner. Needletooth Raptor, this one is vicious. It's a 2/2 for 4 mana, so a big investment. However, you're going to have mana rocks and mana reducers and everything. When this gets enraged, it deals 5 damage to target creature and opponent controls. It's a 2/2 that'll deal 5 damage to things. It can deal 7 damage if the opponent was foolish enough to run into your 2/2 thinking that they didn't even read it. It'll do the 2 damage of it, but then it'll do 5 more damage as it gets enraged. Or get this damage somehow and selectively deal 5 damage to anything on their board, such as their own commander, which probably won't survive 5 damage. Vicious little one. Ripjaw Raptor, it's a 4/5 for 4 mana, so already an amazing curve right there. It's in double green, so you have to have that in mind. But then when it gets enraged, you draw a card. So even little pings, little creatures, any way you can get it done, this is going to just draw you more cards. So it's a nice beefy dinosaur, which also gives you another card if it gets shattered in the sky, and it then draws you a card. So it's another cool dinosaur for this deck. Let's get to the really vicious ones. Trapjaw Tyrant. It's a 5/5 for 5 mana, enrage. Exile target creature and opponent controls until Trapjaw leaves. Okay, so it's a built-in Conclave Tribunal, but notice it says when it gets enraged, exile target creature. You don't have to exile the creature that actually damaged the Tyrant. If somehow you had to, you attacked and they had to chump block with their Llanowar Elf, then you can target the other creature that they didn't even put in the battle. So it's really amazing. Or once again, a Forerunner of the Empire, damage this for 1 as soon as it enters, and then go grab something from the opponent's side. Etali Primal Storm. This is an extremely mean card. 6 mana for a 6/6, and whenever it attacks, it steals the top card of your opponent's library, and you can cast it for free, as well as your own card. 2 free card draws that you can play at that moment, and attacking with a 6/6 dinosaur. Amazing. Sun-Crowned Hunters. Okay, it's a 5/4 for 6 mana that also gets enraged, and then it deals 3 damage to an opponent or a planeswalker. So again, you can have these dinosaurs that are either going to be very aggressive. I'm going to attack with a 5/4, so you're going to take 5. Or if you don't, and block it, chump block it, it's still going to deal 3 damage to your planeswalker or opponent. So I love that. Carnage Tyrant, 6 mana for a 7/6 that is uncounterable, that has trample and hexproof. Amazing. This might be the best card in the whole deck. It's just amazing. They're going to have to triple block this dinosaur, and they can't counter it, they can't bounce it, they can't target it. Amazing. Silverclad Ferocidons. Okay, we're just getting crazier and crazier with these picks in this deck. I love it. 7 mana for an 8/5. When it gets enraged, your opponent must sacrifice a permanent. I could easily see this, that they're sacrificing their own lands, and then you're laughing all the way to the bank on top of your dinosaur. Zetalpa Primal Dawn. It's a 4/8 for 8 mana, flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, indestructible. That's a lot of mana investment here, I know, but you get so many amazing things in the text box of this creature. The sky takes flight and the earth trembles at your mere presence. I love you, Zetalpa. The last of the elder dinosaurs in this deck, of course, is the biggest, fattest of them all, Ghalta Primal Hunger. For 12 mana, you get a 12/12 with trample. Now there is a cost reduction, so you could conceivably summon Ghalta for 2 green mana, because there is X less casting cost for all of the creature's power that you control. So that's a pretty big dinosaur. And the last dinosaur on the team is Polyraptor. 8 mana for a 5/5. When it gets enraged, it makes a token of itself, with the same ability that when that one gets enraged, it makes a copy, and that one makes a copy, and that one makes a copy, and you've got dinosaurs all over the place. You can make about 15 Polyraptors if you do the old trick where you first have a Forerunner of the Empire on the battlefield first, summon your Polyraptor, and then let the damage happen 3 times until your own Forerunner is killed. But by that time, you've been making copies of copies and damaging copies of Raptors. You're going to have 15 or so Raptors just by summoning this. This was my favorite card in Rivals of Ixalan, and here it is, a great card in my Brawl deck. Lastly, the mana base. Nothing too complicated. We've got some basic lands and then some dual lands. Here's another spot where you can jazz things up if you want. Maybe, Field of the Dead or Field of Ruin or Ghost Quarter. I don't know. You could kind of jazz that up if you want. But here's what I've got here. Just plain old and easy split of 5 plains, 5 mountains, 5 forests. I'm using, of course, the unsanctioned lands. They're pretty beautiful. Next up, we've got a Rootbound Crag. It gives you red or green mana, but you have to have a mountain or forest first. Rugged Highlands, it gives you 1 life when it comes into play tapped. Stomping Ground, it's a shock land, pay 2, you then get to have it as red or green mana. Clifftop Retreat, same thing, it's a check land, it checks that you already have a mountain or plains, and it gives you red or white. Sacred Foundry, shock land in red-white. Temple of Triumph, it's a tap land, but it comes into play where you can scry to see what's coming up next. Wind Scarred Crag draws you a life. Sun Petal Grove, check land, and then Temple Garden, shock land in those colors. Now if you can get the other scry lands, that would be helpful as well. But that's how I've got the mana base, pretty straightforward. 24 lands in total, plus those mana rocks and so forth. We've got a pretty good mana base of 30 mana sources. That's what you want to do in Brawl. You want to lean, be safe about it, have more lands than you would have in a standard deck. You've got to accumulate a lot of land to do what you need to do, and then you've got to want to recast your commander and so forth, so mana rocks, mana dorks and such help you accelerate, and that's what the mana base is on that. Alright, so that's the build. Once again, you can get the full deck list, check the notes of this episode, and you'll be able to build your own version of it. If you improve the deck, tell me all about it. I'm on Twitter, twitter.com/vmcampos. Tell me how you improve this Zacama deck. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video. Thumbs up, all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. Maybe head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/vmcampos to keep up to date with everything that I do. It's very much appreciated. Follows are free. Go to the $1 tier, though, to unlock exclusive stuff. Go to the $2 tier, and I'll actually mail you some vintage Magic cards from my collection. No, not a Black Lotus. But if you can't quite pledge at the moment, no worries. Just follow for free, share my stuff. I really appreciate it. This has been VM Campos, and I'll see you on Ixalan.